What's going on YouTube? So of course these days hybrids are all the rage, and what I'm standing next to now is the new Nissan Rogue plug-in hybrid. That's right, they are adding a plug-in hybrid for the 2026 model year. But there's a little bit more to this product than what you might initially think when you just hear plug-in hybrid. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in and take a detailed first look. Alright, so let's jump right in with the exterior design. And that really is the first place I need to just go ahead and mention that this doesn't really look like the regular version of the Nissan Rogue. And that's because it's not. This is actually strongly based upon the Mitsubishi Outlander. Nissan and Mitsubishi have a partnership together, and this introduction of the Rogue plug-in hybrid really relies heavily on their partner. That means when you look here at the front, you're going to notice a lot of design language that's really from the Outlander plug-in model, but with a little bit of Nissan elements. So they kind of adapted the grille here to look like their V-Motion grille. And you have some gloss black elements with some silver accenting through here and your Nissan logo. But as we move over to the lights, those are obviously very different from the standard Rogue. This is just directly from the Outlander. We have a stacked LED over here. These are reflector LEDs. And then you have your daytime running light and turn signal indicator separated up here at the top. I also want to mention that this plug-in hybrid is only going to be available in two of the trim levels from the Rogue. It's going to be SL and Platinum. Moving on to the wheels, since it is only available in two upper end trim levels, all models will have this gloss black 20-inch alloy wheel. I like the design of this with the multi-spoke finish. You also have a little bit of thin cladding around the wheel arches. And then taking a look at the mirrors, we have a gloss black finish on board with standard blind spot monitoring and heating.
Now, in terms of the side of the Rogue plug-in hybrid, overall vehicle length is 185.4 inches. And as far as design touches, we have a couple nice elements going on. Blacked out window surrounds on the lower part as well as through this part. And I do want to point out we also have blacked out roof rails up here at the top. Now, it does appear like you may not be able to get a two-tone roof on this model, so that is something to keep in mind that's different from the gasoline Nissan Rogue. Now, let's go ahead and head around to the rear design. Now, once again, back here, it is, going to look very similar to something like a Mitsubishi Outlander, but Nissan has added a few elements to kind of differentiate as compared to that model. So you'll notice that we have a spoiler up here at the top, our rear window wiper. This is the primary element that is different as compared to an Outlander, is our Nissan branding through the center section. The taillight unit itself is going to be basically your Outlander unit. So you have a LED brake light, incandescent turn signal, and incandescent reverse light. As we drop down to the lower fascia, all of this is going to be a nice body color. I do like that. It gives it a little bit more of a premium look. And as far as the maximum tow rating, it's 1,500 pounds. Now, when it comes to your safety systems, this is going to come very well equipped because it is just available in those two trim levels. So you have all four of your active safety features as standard equipment. However, I do want to point out that you won't be able to get available features such as the ProPilot 2.1 system that will allow for some hands-free driving. So keep that in mind. But there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the interior, but first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
And if you want to know about all the latest and greatest rides, then make sure to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the newest cars. Okay, let's check out the interior now. Of course, you will have a smart entry system on board. And opening up the door, well, I think you'll be pretty impressed by the premium interior that you have, especially here on the top end example, Platinum. Now, as far as the seats are concerned, you have quilted leather on the top trim level, so we have this beautiful finish. With the quilted design. I think it looks quite nice and really stands out for the segment with the color contrast stitching. Of course, you have power adjusting seats as standard equipment as well, and we have two-way lumbar support as well as memory seats. But let's climb inside and look at the rest. Now, as far as the rest of the materials, well, they are very nice. Now, I promise I'm not going to say Outlander anymore with the interior, but it is pretty much the Mitsubishi Outlander's interior. That's a good place to borrow from, though, because it is a little bit more upscale than the regular version of the Rogue. So you'll notice over here on the door trim, we have a beautiful quilted design over through here with leather on the armrest and the upper portion. It's going to be a soft touch plastic all along the top, leatherette through the center section with more stitching and through here as well. A little bit of silver accenting. It's all padded through here. And then we have a quite realistic looking faux aluminum trim in the center section. Now, obviously, we are inside today at an auto show, so we can't fire up the model completely, but we can go ahead and look around at some of the individual details. With the gauge cluster, we have a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster on board. It is going to be customizable with various different kinds of graphics. And then we also have a head-up display, which is not available on a few of the different rivals. Now, as far as the steering wheel is concerned, we've got a multi-spoke steering wheel with the perforated leather, a little bit thicker than the usual feel, and then it has manual tilt and telescoping as well as heating. Speaking of interior storage, next we'll open up the center console here. It's not overly large, but you could fit a few donuts inside. Most of the storage, though, is kind of front of that with our cup holders, and then we have this large cubby right here with a wireless phone charging pad. There's a little bit of storage actually on both sides of this, but it is not a pass-through. The shifter is that signature Nissan design here. It's electronic, so you're just going to pull back for drive, bump up for reverse. When you go into reverse, this does also offer the around view 360-degree camera system. Big drive mode controller is located right behind that. And then you have your electronic parking brake with your brake hold function. Zeroing in next on our climate controls, this is a full analog setup, so you just have the physical knobs right here to make your adjustments. Certainly nice and easy. We also have 3-zone automatic climate, which is very rare for this segment of vehicle, and you can control the back up here in the front if you prefer to do that. Located over here, you'll see that we have heated seats, but we do not have seat ventilation. And then let's move on up into this area. First, I'll point out we have a Bose sound system that's going to be on your upper end examples. We do anticipate that will sound pretty high quality like it did in previous Rogues and Outlanders that we've tested out. And then let's talk about the screen. So you might notice that this is a little bit smaller than what you were probably expecting. That's because this kind of comes with the previous generation of the technology in this model. So it's a 9-inch display. That means it's going to have a little bit different software than the usual Rogue software, but it still has features that you'd expect like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Up top we have an auto-dimming mirror. We have our lighting, and then you have a panoramic sunroof with the front panel opening up.
Now, there's some pretty big news when it comes to the Rogue plug-in hybrid's rear seat and overall practicality for this model. We'll talk about the second row first, though. So in terms of this, we're sitting at about 38 inches of legroom and about 39 inches of headroom. Those are quite good numbers for this segment of vehicle, and you can also slide these seats forward and back to kind of customize the amount of space that you have on board. Now, in terms of features, let's also talk about what they're going to be including here. Now, I am on a limited time frame, so I can't get the ruler out and such, but is plenty of space, and you also have nice features. So we have our rear vents right here. You have your third zone of climate where you can adjust your own controls and temperature, and then also off to the side you'll find heated back seats. That's certainly a super nice feature to see for this segment. We have USB ports down below there, and even a household style outlet, it appears. So some really nice features on this model. Now we can also use this little toggle here, and that's going to allow us to fold down the center seat. It has 2 cup holders in here and acts as a nice arm rest. Now, if you look over at the door trim, you have a really nicely equipped one. You have that same quilting through the center section, as well as the rear window sunshades. Additionally, you have quite a bit of door storage, which I'm pretty happy to see. It's a very practical choice when it comes to the rear seats, and we're not done yet because we have to talk about the third row. That's right. This Rogue plug-in hybrid will now have a third row. So like the Mitsubishi Outlander, you do have that third row ability. So in order to get back there, you just kind of grab that handle there, and that will allow the seat to slide out of the way. Now, as you can see, the third row is very small. Typically in this segment, they do not offer third rows, and that's because typically they are very small. Only about 18 inches of third row legroom. So I'm going to just go ahead and save the effort and not climb back there because we are here at an auto show and we're on a pretty strict time frame. But very small. So I would expect this to be used for basically emergencies only, bad kids on our third row rating scale, that's for sure. But it is a nice option to have in this segment if, you have the emergency that you need to haul a couple extra people. The Mitsubishi Outlander and this Nissan Rogue will have that feature. So let's go ahead and check out the cargo area. Now, unfortunately, people have been in and out of this car all day long, so the vehicle is dead, so it's not allowing me to open the cargo area up. But we are looking at some decent numbers when it comes to overall cargo capacity here on this Rogue plug-in hybrid. Let me go ahead and pull those up for you. About 13 cubic feet behind the third row of seats, 30 cubic feet with those seats folded down, and has a maximum around 65 cubic feet for this model. That's going to place it in line with most of the other options that you could be looking at, such as a RAV4 plug-in hybrid. So even though this does have a third row, it's not really sacrificing too much in terms of overall cargo capacity. And speaking of this model, against some of its competition, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. The reason you should do that is because this compact segment is super competitive, and we've looked at this model as well as things like the Outlander against all of its competitive set when it comes to cargo capacity, second row features, interior technology, luxury amenities, and powertrain choices. So you'll definitely, if you want to make an informed buying decision, want to check out carconfections.com/vehicle rankings.
Let's get into some details about the powertrain of this Rogue plug-in hybrid. So this is going to be made out of a 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine with your electric hybrid components, including a 20 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. Our total system power on board is 248 horsepower and 332 pound-feet of torque, which are good improvements over what you get in the standard version of the Rogue, which has a variable compression turbo 3-cylinder. Now, in terms of other components, this will be an eCVT. All-wheel drive is standard on all versions of this. And one thing I want to point out, just to make sure no one gets confused, is the 2026 Outlander plug-in hybrid will be getting some updates that make it a little bit more sophisticated than this version. So it's going to have a larger battery as well as more range and more power. Speaking of range, I do need to point out this has 38 miles of pure electric range, which is, of course, very important. And that's pretty similar to what you get in the new RAV4 plug-in hybrid, which is probably the biggest rival to this model. Lastly, here in terms of fuel economy, we're looking at a combined 64 mpge rating on just the gas engine to be about 26, and Nissan says that's good for 420 miles of total driving range.
Now, unfortunately, we don't have official pricing for this Rogue plug-in. However, we do have some good guesses. So what we're going to kind of extrapolate from is the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. So that model started around $40,000, but it did have fewer or more trim levels than this Nissan Rogue. So we're expecting maybe $45,000 as a starting point, and then the Platinum to be around $50,000 for this Nissan Rogue plug-in hybrid. Now, keep in mind, those are just estimates, and we do expect to hear from Nissan soon when it comes to official pricing. Now, if you're looking to buy a Nissan Rogue plug-in hybrid or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while dealership negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that in our video description, as well as a pinned comment down below. And guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth first look review of the all-new 2026 Nissan Rogue plug-in hybrid. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we hope you did, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and I promise you won't want to miss out. We'll also be covering this Nissan Rogue plug-in hybrid in more detail very soon, so you'll definitely want to stay tuned for the channel for that. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.